Far away on a sand hill where it was protected by tens of thousands of soldiers of Jax, there stood the commanding flag of the troops. Not sure when, but the person standing directly below it wasn't Farrington. Instead, it was someone who Faye never met before. This person wasn't tall nor short, and he wasn't fat nor thin. He was wearing a red robe and standing there quietly as he observed the battle. However, it seemed like there was a thin layer of fog around him as no one could clearly see his face. As his robe flattered in the wind and made a series of flapping sound, it gave people the feeling that he was really close yet really far. It seemed like the law of space didn't work on him. The high-level commanders who were closer to him tried their best trying to remember this man. But it doesn't matter how hard they tried, they would forget about him entirely in the next second. Farrington was also not standing right behind this man. Two young men were standing behind this man. They were wearing red robes as well. The older one looked like he was around 28 years old. He had all the features of the people of Jax. He had a big beard, long curly hair, and high cheekbone. His eyes were sharp, and energetic lights flashed in his eyes. This man felt like a sharp blade that was being kept in a sheath as he was powerful yet reserved. The younger one out of the two looked like he was about 20 years old. He was a lot taller and bigger than ordinary people of Jax. He had blonde hair, green eyes, and white skin. Although he looked somewhat handsome, he appeared gloomy and aggressive. These three men were standing below the commanding flag, replacing Farrington. Farrington was now standing behind them respectfully as surprise and joy appeared on his face. However, there were deeper and more complex emotions that were well hidden in his eyes. I didn't expect there to be so many masters in Dual Flag City. That young man with the beard and the curly hair looked at the four warriors of Chambord who stopped his two junior brothers and said with a surprised tone, "No wonder you and the 60,000 soldiers are stopped here for more than 5 days. Senior brother Modoc, the most powerful warrior on their side, King Alexander, hasn't shown himself yet," Farrington said respectfully as he looked at this man with admiration. If Faye was here, he would know that Farrington was referring to this man that day. "Ha! King Alexander? What a joke! I can kill him easily with only one of my fingers. Junior brother Farrington, you are being stopped by these trashes? You are putting shame onto our big snow mountain." The other young man who looked a bit gloomy laughed, but his tone was arrogant and was filled with disdain. As soon as he said that, the commanders of Jax around Farrington got angry immediately. However, Farrington didn't get mad. He waved and stopped his generals from shouting. Then, with a smile on his face, he said, "King Alexander is a powerful warrior. Senior brother Tony, although you are one of the few geniuses in our big snow mountain, you might not be able to defeat the king of Chambord." That gloomy young man named Tony turned around and stared at Farrington like a vicious beast as a murderous aura appeared. After a while, he sneered, "Are you trying to make me fight him? Don't think that I couldn't see through your tricks. Remember, your status as the prince is worthless in my eyes. Don't ever try to play tricks with me again. However, I will kill that king of Chambord today just to prove that you are always inferior to me." After he said that, he disappeared from where he was standing. Outside Dual Flag City, the 10 warriors were still battling viciously. Scarlet Needles. 7th Needle. As the wind blew by him, Czech stopped moving his feet and pointed out with one of his fingers. At that moment, it seemed like the spatial and temporal sensation got twisted. The metal pieces that protected Czech's finger extended outward and struck the shoulder of the 9-star warrior he was fighting with like the tail of a scorpion. "Shit!" That warrior's face changed color as his body shivered. The insane amount of pain caused his facial muscles to twitch uncontrollably, and his body was then numbed. He even felt like his warrior energy couldn't travel inside his body correctly. Before this, he was struck 6 times. Every single time he got hit, the pain increased. He could even sense that his body's condition was worsening. He felt like he had aged for many years in just a few minutes. This warrior's technique is evil and vicious. He is only a 6-star warrior, but I couldn't dodge his strikes. This 9-star warrior thought to himself. "Ha! Great opportunity. Saint's sword Excalibur." White-haired Pierce laughed as he rushed forward. His strong figure left a series of afterimages in the air, and an invisible yet sharp sword energy struck at this 9-star warrior's throat as he swung his right arm. "Fuck off!" That 9-star warrior roared and unleashed more of his 9-star warrior energy. He forced all the negative sensations such as pain and numbness away from his body, and he struck out with his fists immediately. Boom! Pierce was instantly knocked away, and blood dripped down from his lips. However, that was all the injury he suffered. His Star Saint set already cancelled out 40% of the damage, and his muscular body that got strengthened by the Hulk potion, and the Wind Elemental 5-star warrior energy took care of the rest. When he was knocked away, his sword energy still hit the enemy. Although it didn't hit vital spots like the throat, it did chop onto the enemy's shoulder. Under the empowerment of the star energy, the sharp Excalibur broke through the warrior energy shield of this 9-star warrior and left a deep and shocking wound. That man's arm almost got chopped off. Scarlet needles. 8th needle. Check, and Pierce's coordination was almost perfect. As Pierce was knocked away, Check immediately attacked and stopped this 9-star warrior from chasing after Pierce. On the other side, Torres and Drogba were having a tougher time. Gigantic long horn. Drogba roared as he puked up a mouthful of blood. Like a crazy meteor, he continued to throw his body towards his enemy. Even though he was already knocked away by the 9-star warrior multiple times, he was still going at him as if he wanted to suicide. This injury-for-injury battle style was effective. Gigantic Longhorn mixed with the star energy caused some injuries on this 9-star warrior as the collision forces passed through the warrior energy shield this 9-star warrior put up. This 9-star warrior was now pale, and blood was dripping down his face. Torres, on the other hand, was almost dissolved in the air. He was so fast that even star-level warriors could only see the afterimages. The arrows that made no noises were shooting at this 9-star warrior's vital spots from all direction while following all sorts of strange trajectories. The arrows that were empowered by the star energy could pierce through the warrior energy shield, and there was already one arrow on this 9-star warrior's back and one on his right arm. With the protection offered by the Star Saint sets, this 9-star warrior couldn't instantly defeat and kill Torres and Drogba, but these two lower-level warriors could injure him. This man was feeling very angry and powerless. He felt like he was a dragon who was being provoked by two dogs but couldn't fight back. Faye's fingers were lightly knocking the battlements on the defense wall. The battles outside Dual Flag City would make anyone's blood boil, and Faye was no exception. Fights like these could be considered next level. Lampard and Elena were almost even with their opponents. Although Pierce, Drogba, Check, and Torres were weaker than their opponents, their ferociousness and fearlessness allowed them to match up with their opponents temporarily. The negative consequences of this semi-suicidal style soon showed as the four warriors were all heavily injured. But this stirred up the emotions of the soldiers of Zenit even more. At this moment, the cheering on the side of Zenit reached its climax. This scene moved the nobles and their guards who were scared to death, and they joined and cheered as well. The way they knocked their armors and weapons and slapped the battlements in excitement would make others have a hard time believing that they were close to crapping in their pants less than half an hour ago when the Master Warriors of Jax charged at Dual Flag City. That is good enough. If these four men battled longer, they would be too injured and they would need a long time to heal up. That would affect the defense of the city later if the enemy's siege. Faye thought. He stopped knocking the battlement and was about to put an end to the fights outside Dual Flag City. At this moment, a terrifying energy surge appeared in the campsites of Jax. The energy waves expanded outward like a tsunami, and it was far beyond the power of a 9-star warrior. Such power, Faye thought. Faye's face changed color when he sensed that power. In the next moment, everyone's vision blurred a little as a handsome young man who was wearing a red robe appeared on the battlefield. As he walked closer and closer to Dual Flag City, the residual forces from the battles that could instantly kill 3-star warriors couldn't even flutter this man's clothes. Ha ha! A bunch of clowns. Die! As this man laughed arrogantly, he flipped his wrist. His eyes instantly lit up, and a red spherical energy wave spread out as he lightly stomped the ground. Suddenly, 6 sword energies shot out from the energy wave. The red sword energies cut through space and attacked Lampard, Elena, Pierce, Drogba, Check, and Torres separately. Damn it! Back off! Lampard instantly sensed the danger and shouted. He knew that none of them was able to defend against this attack, so he unleashed all of his lightning elemental warrior energy and charged at those 6 sword energies. He was planning to buy time so the other 5 could escape. Ahahaha! How pitiful! That young man laughed arrogantly as he said with mockery. However, the smile froze on his face. The 6 sword energies didn't kill the 6 warriors of Chambord like how he anticipated. In a split second, 6 transparent fist marks shot towards those 6 sword energies from Dual Flag City. After they destroyed the 6 sword energies, they combined together into a lotus and attacked Tony. Who is it? That young man named Tony was surprised. He backed off 3 steps and waved his hand. A red square warrior energy shield that was 10 meters on each side appeared and protected him. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded repeatedly, and the energy waves expanded outward and almost destroyed the desert. Cracks appeared on the ground, and swirling wind turned into tornadoes and sucked up a lot of sand. For a moment all the cheering stopped. Tap, 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 tap. You can't defeat me. Go back. Light footsteps sounded, and a tall figure appeared in the dust. Although there were clouds of dust around him, a transparent energy field protected around him, and his blue robe was still sparkling clean. Although this man had a concerned expression on his face, he wasn't looking at Tony but the sand hill farther away. Although Tony was surprised, he instantly got angry. After hearing the disdainful tone of his opponent, Tony laughed back. Ahahaha. So you are that trash king of Chambord? Great. I will chop off your head in front of those bugs of Zenith to extinguish their hopes. I will also let that trash Farrington know how useless he is. As Tony walked closer and closer towards Faye, his long blonde hair fluttered in the wind more aggressively. I already said that you are no match for me, Faye said carelessly. You are only a level 1 low-tier new moon warrior. If you don't want to die, then get out of my face. You? Ha ha ha. Stop pretending. That young man laughed arrogantly after hearing Faye's words. You are only a little star-level warrior. How dare you challenge a moon-class elite? Attack me. I will let you know your place in one strike. Faye smiled and waved his hand. He signaled the warriors of Chambord to go back first. Your Majesty, allow us to stay and guard the area for you. The warriors of Chambord walked to Faye and said. They didn't want to go back. Although they were weak, they could tell that this young man in red was more powerful than they could imagine. Also, since they heard the king say that this man was a moon-class elite, they were worried about him. After all, moon-class elites were almost worshipped by star-level warriors. Elena stood behind Faye quietly as she held onto her bow tightly. Why? You don't trust me? Faye smiled and said, Go back. They are just a few clowns. Lampard looked at Faye and nodded. He then looked at others and said, Let's go. What to go now? Too late. Haha. Anyone who dared to attack the members of Big Snow Mountain couldn't leave. You 4. Do whatever you need to keep these 6 warriors of Zenith here. Tony commanded. Yes, senior brother. It was obvious that these 4 9-star warriors were afraid of this young man in red. They instantly leaped into the air and dashed at the warriors of Chambord. Faye's expression turned cold as he lightly shook his shoulder. For transparent fist marks flew out and aimed at the 4 9-star warriors. Your opponent is me. Haha. The vicious expression appeared on Tony's face as he dashed at Faye. With his body enveloped by the red warrior energy flames, he struck at Faye's neck using his hand. Fuck off. A chilling light appeared in Faye's eyes as he punched out at Tony's chest. He completely ignored the attack that was coming at him. Tony had to defend himself, so he changed his attack position into a defense position. Boom! A terrifying energy wave appeared. Clouds of dust flew into the air. One figure was standing there like a mountain, and the other figure was forced back. The man who was forced back was Tony. With a shocking expression, he shouted, How is this possible? You are only a star-level warrior. Faye ignored what he was saying and pressed down, and all the dust instantly settled. As he lightly shook his shoulder, for crystal-transparent fist marks flew out and struck the 4 9-star warriors. Boom! These 9-star warriors were forced back. They instantly threw up, and they lost 90% of their combat abilities. When they landed on the ground, they almost couldn't stand. Red warrior energy burned like fire, and a strange phenomenon took place when Tony drew a circle using his arms in the air. 2 long red blades slowly appeared from his arms, and he held onto them tightly. The 2 blades had strange shapes. Their bodies were almost circular, and several powerful magic arrays were engraved onto them. A red light shone on the blades as an ancient aura appeared. It felt like they could easily tear the space apart and devour human souls. They were 2 combat weapons. It looked like Tony decided to pursue the path of combat weapon warrior. That was a path that many warriors deemed superior compared with Beast Soul Warrior and other cultivation paths. At this moment, Lampard and other warriors on the side of Zenith already got onto the defense wall of Dual Flag City. Only Elena was standing behind Faye and patiently observing the situation. Her red fancy armor looked like a cloud of fire, and it was breathtaking. However, she wasn't looking at Faye. She was looking at the sand hill that was protected by tens of thousands of soldiers of Jax. There was a powerful presence that gave her a lot of pressure. Faye thought of something and grabbed in the air. A pair of weapons that looked similar to swords appeared in his hands after a silver light flashed by. The sunlight reflecting off of the blades looked chilling, and it seemed like the blades were lightly singing. They were the weapons that manager Abramovich at Soros Merchant Group gifted to him. When Faye felt a thrilling sensation that day holding this pair of weapons, he didn't realize what was going on. After he saw Tony revealing the combat weapons, he understood that this pair of strangely shaped weapons were a pair of combat weapons, and that thrilling sensation was the feedback from them. Swirling wind was instantly created. In a flash, both of them disappeared. Then, a ton of sparks appeared in the sky, as if there was a fireworks show. As people wondered what was going on, they finally heard the light but clear metal colliding noises. Tink, 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 tink. The 2 master warriors finally were going at each other. Their attack speeds were faster than the speed of sound, and they had attacked each other more than 1,000 times in just a few seconds. However, the noises made by the attacks only sounded after the sparks appeared. The battle style of the Moon-class elites was different from the star-level warriors. After a warrior advanced into the Moon-class realm, his or her warrior energy would undergo a significant change in quality. Unlike the flashy techniques used by star-level warriors, the Moon-class elites' attacks were more basic. The warrior energy would have turned into a liquid form from a gas form, and it was stored within the warrior's warrior energy channels and connections. This would strengthen the internal organs of the warrior, and it would allow the warrior to have a better control. Even if Moon-class elites were in a death battle, they won't waste even a tiny bit of their warrior energy. As a result, Moon-class elites' battle style was closer to that of ordinary soldiers. Their strikes were basic, but the damage they could do was beyond ordinary people's imaginations. The metal colliding noises sounded, and sparks flew, but no one could spot the 2 warriors. The noises only toned down after 5 minutes, and the 2 warriors landed on the ground. Faye laughed as he caressed his weapons, and it looked like he had a lot of fun. The strangely shaped combat weapons also made a series of cheering sounds as if they finally woke up from a long sleep. In this battle, Faye experienced how Moon-class elites fought and how they used their warrior energy, and a lot of questions on his mind were answered. He was almost completely fine except that his shirt was slightly cut on the shoulder. On the other side, Moon-class elite Tony was shocked. Veins bulged on his arms as his arms shook uncontrollably. Blood dripped down from his hands, and his red robe had hundreds of holes on it. Although he wasn't injured, the amount of damage his robe suffered was enough to prove the point. Tony could tell that he would be severely injured if his opponent didn't go easy on him. However, this treatment was a crueler version of mockery. His opponent's laughs taunted him. Like sharp needles, they penetrated through his eardrums, his cultivation confidence, and his self-pride. King Alexander! King Alexander! King Alexander! The people of Zenith cheered and shouted Faye's name. The blood inside their bodies was ignited by what they saw. The Legion commander of Wolf Teeth Legion defeated the Moon-class elite. It was like a legend, Our Legion commander is stronger than this Moon-class elite? This thought made a lot of people inside Dual Flag's city feel dizzy. They were so excited that their heads turned blank, and the only thing they knew how to do was to cheer Faye on. That was the only way for them to vent their emotions. On the other hand, the soldiers of Jax fell into an unprecedented state of silence. The battle between master warriors could shift the morale of the soldiers quickly. It was obvious that the King of Chambord defeated the 4 9-star warriors and the Moon-class elite of Jax, and that shocked the vicious soldiers of Jax. Their morale was dropping at an insane speed, and this hammer onto their confidence was deadly. Farrington, who was standing beside the commanding flag of Jax, was shocked to an extreme. King Alexander could fight a Moon-class elite? His understanding of Faye completely changed. He thought of Faye as his nemesis, but he realized that was an understatement. This prince felt numb. He felt like he was a rat who was fighting against a dragon. He thought this dragon was only more massive than him, but this dragon immediately spit out a fire that could destroy everything. Nice! The head disciple in Big Snow Mountain, Modoc, was surprised as well, and he ended up commenting on the situation with one word. However, Farrington didn't know what he meant. This prince then suppressed his shock and looked at his master, who was standing on the peak of the hill. Too bad that layer of fog was still surrounding him. It felt like lights were all bent when they traveled through this layer of fog, and no one could see what this man looked like and if there were any expressions on his face. His presence was always calm, like a bottomless abyss. No one could sense what was going on deep down. However, Farrington was sensing something strange right now. He felt like his master, who he only met 3 times in the last 20 years, was moved. Farrington forced himself not to gasp as he waved his hand to stop the commanders of Jax from talking with each other. With an indescribable attitude as if he was an outsider, he continued to watch the battle. Although the King of Chambord brought him a lot of surprises, he believed that the king was going to die anyway. After all, his master was here. In the meanwhile, Farrington started to think about another question. Why is my master, who hadn't left Big Snow Mountain for 20+ years, here? He came to this desert with his 2 most talented disciples, Senior Brother Modoc and Senior Brother Tony. He didn't think that his master was here to help him win the war. He knew clearly that this cruel war happening between Jax and Zenith was a child play in the eyes of his master. Even though the people of Jax had endured shame for more than 20 years, and this war was crucial to the future of Jax, his master wasn't interested in helping. You dirty dog! I will kill you. I will kill all the bastards in Dual Flag City. I will slit your throat and fill you up with the blood of your loved ones. Tony, who was handsome, looked wicked at this moment as his facial muscles twisted and twitched. Like a beast, he roared and expressed his murderous intent as he approached Faye. Faye was only looking at his swords and ignored Tony. The king was experiencing how Moon-class elites battled. According to rumors, a warrior would undergo a complete upgrade once he or she reached Moon-class. On top of the change in the quality of warrior energy, the bones, the cells, and the organs in their bodies would become stronger as well. It was more than just a boost in strength. It was an elevation in life energy. Ordinary people on the Azeroth continent lived around 100 years, but Moon-class elites could live for 300 years as long as they didn't get killed in battles. Any simple strike of a Moon-class elite was as powerful as the high-level combat technique used by star-level warriors. The Moon-class elites liked close-range combat more, but they could quickly destroy star-level warriors if these warriors dared to use any long-range techniques. Although Faye only fought Tony for a few minutes, he made a lot of discoveries. The king could tell that his body under barbarian mode was even more robust than the body of a Moon-class elite. The direct effect of a tougher body was that he could take on the destructive strikes of Moon-class elites, and his enemies might be actually harmed by the repulsive force of their own attacks. After Faye gave quite a few points into the skill sword mastery, his understanding of swords reached another level. Although he didn't have systemic techniques, his strikes were more random and harder to predict. It was actually more dangerous in the eyes of Moon-class elites. One thing for sure was that Faye had a dominating advantage over Moon-class elites who were under level 5 low-tier New Moon. Although he hadn't become a Moon-class elite yet, his level 99 barbarian was just too mighty. This Tony was only a level 1 low-tier New Moon warrior, so Faye was able to play around with him easily. Also, Faye found out that this young man from Big Snow Mountain seemed to have taken some mysterious potions and barely got into the realm of Moon class. This young man's foundation was weak, so he wasn't technically even a level 1 low-tier New Moon warrior yet. Challenging Faye from that position was like committing suicide. Boom! They battled again. This time, Faye didn't hold back his strength. Leap attack. One of the vital barbarian skills that ancient Korlik was known for was shown in this world for the first time. Faye and his swords became one, and the extremely powerful strike was used. Tony's pupils contracted instantly. His eyes reflected the shining blades of Faye, and he only had the time to raise his combat weapons to block. He immediately sensed the indefensible energy passing into his body from his weapons, and his Moon-class warrior energy got torn through like a piece of paper. Puff! Ah! He was knocked into the air like a punching bag, and he puked up a mouthful of blood when he landed on the ground and created a deep pit. He couldn't believe it. Faye instantly chased after him and placed his swords on Tony's neck. The chilling lights reflecting off of the blades shined on Tony's face, and goosebumps instantly appeared on this arrogant young man's body. You! Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Do you dare to kill me? A craziness and resentment appeared in his eyes as he suddenly started to laugh. Faye frowned but didn't chop through using his blades, because at that moment, a vague aura targeted him. He felt like he was being locked onto by the man standing under the commanding flag of Jax, and he felt like even his soul was shivering out of fear uncontrollably, as if he was being stared at by a huge dragon. He knew for sure that he would face a terrifying strike if he killed this young man, and he knew that he couldn't defend against it yet. Also, he knew that he probably wouldn't be able to kill this young man if he wanted to. That man standing under the flag was just too powerful. After a moment of pause, Faye smiled. Pia. He slapped Tony's face using the back of his blades, and this gloomy young man was instantly knocked out as blood spilled. Then, Faye dragged him out of the pit and threw him in front of the 4 9-star warriors from Big Snow Mountain who were scared to death. Then, those 4 warriors carried Tony back to the campsites of Jax in a hurry. After that was done, Faye pointed his swords at the ground, smiled, and looked at that cool and terrifying figure standing under the commanding flag. Master! The 4 9-star warriors went back to the sand hill. With shameful expressions on their faces, they kneeled down after placing Tony beside them. The man in red waved his hand, and a dash of the fire was injected into Tony's body. In the next second, all of the injuries in Tony's body were healed. His pores emitted a translucent mist, and he finally woke up. As soon as he saw the man in red, he kneeled down and shouted as he pointed at Faye, who was standing there with blades in his hands. Master! That damn bastard embarrassed me on purpose. Please kill him for me. He looked very vicious when he said that. Modoc and Farrington looked at each other and didn't say anything. You are still too anxious. You just advanced into the realm of Moon class, and your foundation isn't firm. Losing this battle would only do good for you in the long run. That man in red finally spoke. His voice was normal and it wasn't distinguishable. He continued, even a star-level warrior could defeat you, so I'm sure you learned your lesson. It is okay that you brought shame to Big Snow Mountain. If you don't be careful and respect your opponents, you will lose your life one day. Master, I know I made a mistake, but that king of Chambord is still too arrogant. Please kill him. Tony kowtowed as he said with vicious lights in his eyes. It was obvious that he didn't listen to the man in red's advice. I won't kill him for you. Once you get strong enough, you should go and wash away the shame yourself. That is what a warrior should do. The man in red shook his head and suddenly said coldly, back off now. Reflect on this for a day and work on firming your foundations. As he was speaking, that fog was still covering his face. Even a Moon-class elite couldn't see through it. In fact, not a lot of people had seen this man's face in the last 20 years. After hearing the words coming from the man in red, an unwilling expression appeared on Tony's face. However, he didn't dare to go against his master's words. so he stared at Faye for the last time before he went into a tent in the campsites of Jax. "You four, go back and heal up as well." The man in red waved his hands and sent those warriors away. After hearing the command, the 4 9-star warriors left quickly in relief. "Master, allow me to defeat that man and redeem our big snow mountain." After a moment of silence, MODOK stepped forward and asked. Farrington clenched his fists after hearing that. MODOK was the head disciple of this man in red, and he had the blood of Jax running inside of him. He was valiant and composed. As a new star in the cultivation world in Jax, he was the person who was most likely to take over the role of the martial saint of Jax, and he was admired and respected by Farrington. Compared with Tony, who was anxious and superficial, this MODOK had been a moon-class elite for many years. In Farrington's eyes, this senior brother of his could for sure defeat the king of Chambord. "You aren't his match, back off," the man in red said. His words surprised both MODOK and Farrington. "What? Master said that even senior brother MODOK couldn't defeat the king of Chambord? How is this possible?" "But Alexander is only a star-level warrior, but he is able to dominate over moon-class elite? How?" Farrington felt like his head went blank. After thinking back to the meeting between him and Faye, Farrington was glad that he had the status of a prince. Otherwise, Faye could have easily killed him. "Yes, master." MODOK didn't question his master's judgment, and he didn't feel like his ego was being poked. With a respectful expression on his face, he backed off and stood behind the commanding flag of Jax. At this moment, this man in red stepped forward. This shocked MODOK and Farrington. This meant that their master was going to battle the king of Chambord himself. Faye, who was standing on the battlefield with his swords, instantly sensed the pressure. He felt like a mountain was falling down at him, and the world in his eyes dimmed. For a moment, Faye even had a hard time breathing. Elena, who was standing behind Faye, walked up and stood shoulder by shoulder with him. She didn't say anything, but the surging magic energy around her told everyone her intention. Now, the cheers coming from Dual Flag City stopped. All the warriors and soldiers were carefully observing the situation. Everyone felt the invisible pressure. They knew that the most critical moment was here. Although most of the soldiers didn't know where this invisible pressure, that even made the Invincible Legion commander King Alexander Sirius, came from, they knew that this battle was going to determine the fate of Dual Flag City. The wind blew by, and the sands flew in the air. The battlefield with tens of thousands of soldiers on it was silent. At this moment, almost everyone could hear the pumping of their own hearts, the flowing of their blood, and the swallowing of their drools. It was a terrifying silence. It was the type of silence that was held before the Judgment Day. Suddenly, multiple flames in different colors appeared on Faye's body. He unleashed the strength of his level 99 barbarian, and all of his level 6 items were appearing. The red armor, the black arm guards, the orange metal boots, the green belt, and the golden crown-like helmet all showed. Although Faye's barbarian items weren't the best level 7 items but were random level 6 items, they were the best that he had. Tink. Bulkathos children replaced the 2 strangely shaped combat weapons. With the help of magic items, Faye was standing at his peak. At this moment, that man in red standing more than 2,000 meters away raised his hands and lightly pushed out. There weren't any warrior energy flames, there weren't any huge noises, and there were any storms. After that man pushed out his hands, all the hair on Faye's body stood up. He sensed an unprecedented danger, and he instantly used his most powerful sword technique without thinking. Whirlwind. This was the sword technique that Faye got from ancient Talik on the summit of Mount Arit. It was the most powerful sword technique of the barbarians. As soon as Faye used that technique, his body turned fuzzy and vague. His dual swords created numerous afterimages and a blade storm. The swords roared, and the sword energies shooting out of them formed a spectacular phenomenon. Afterward, these sword energies dashed towards that man in red in the form of a tornado. They were so flashy that they even stole the light from the sun. Ancient Talik was the most power ancient out of the 3 ancients, and his skill Whirlwind was the most powerful skill of the barbarians. After Faye successfully defeated Talik, He inherited all of Talik's understanding and experience points on this skill. After Faye used it in the real world, it was like ancient Talik traveling through space and time and using this skill in this world himself. Besides, Faye's strength was more powerful than ancient Talik in normal mode, so the power of Whirlwind was even stronger. This strike was the most powerful strike Faye was capable of. However, that wasn't enough. After the sword energies from this strike traveled for more than 500 meters, they started to slow down. Soon, as if they were stuck in an invisible swamp, all these sword energies froze in mid-air. In just a second, these sword energies that could each kill a 9-star warrior couldn't hold up against that invisible hand, and they shattered and disappeared in the air. It was a scene beyond anyone's imagination. The process was fancy yet strange. As if they were watching a slow-motion movie, everyone clearly saw what happened. Sword energies continued to dash towards that man in red, and they were destroyed one after another. That invisible hand continued to proceed forward slowly but steadily. As if a heavy rock was being placed on an egg, the drop was unquestionable and undeniable. Faye was the first person who had to face this pressure. As if it was a mountain falling down on him, the pressure was coming at him slowly but steadily. When facing this indefensible power, anyone would feel desperate and hopeless. Terrifying. Who is he? His strength is even more powerful than Krasik after he used Energy Channel Radical Revival Forbidden Technique. He is at least a mid-tier or high-tier New Moon warrior. Faye unleashed all of the strength of his level 99 barbarian, but it was no use. The man in red lightly struck forward with his palm, and that invisible force instantly crushed the blade storm. Although Faye rooted his feet into the ground, his body was still being pressed back. His legs created 2 deep trails in the sand, and the scene was shocking. Whoosh! Whoosh! A series of bowstring vibration noises sounded as lights appeared in Elena's eyes. Magic arrows were shot out of her magic bow, and each of them contained her full strength. Each arrow was enough to injure a 9-star warrior, and cracking noises sounded as ice formed along the trails of the arrows. However, powerful arrows like these couldn't stop that invisible hand. In fact, the arrows couldn't even get within 5 meters of that hand. The arrows alongside the magic energy on them disappeared when they got close. Tink, 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 tink. Tens of thousands of soldiers of Zenit knocked their armors with their weapons, and the rhythmic noises sounded similar to the war drums. Each tink was meaningful as this was the soldiers' way of empowering their head commander. In mid-air, that invisible hand almost obliterated the blade storm created by Whirlwind. As it slowly moved forward inch by inch, it brought everyone on the side of Zenit a ton of pressure. Faye's body was being forced to move back. Crack! The level 6 items from Diablo World were breaking one after another. As if they were corroded by time, they rusted and shattered. The dual swords in Faye's hands were bending to an extreme degree as they whined. It felt like they were going to break any time. Meanwhile, blood continued to leak out of all the pores on Faye. Like sweat, the blood soon stained everything on him and dripped down his body. Elena's lips were being dyed into a bright red color by her blood, and the contrast of the red blood and her white skin looked terrifying. However, this Valkyrie wasn't willing to back down as she continued to shoot out magic arrows. Ahahaha! Whirlwind! Faye roared as he used this most powerful sword technique again. The sword energies went into the sky and formed a blade storm that looked like a silver dragon. Then, this silver dragon flew towards that huge hand more than 100 meters away. The silver dragon collided with that huge hand, but it only paused that huge hand from moving forward for a little bit. After 3 seconds, the blade storm shattered as if it was made from real metal and disappeared. The difference in strength was too much. Faye had to back off, and he was now only 200 meters away from Dual Flag City. Although he was covered in blood, his eyes were still bright. Without hesitation, he protected Elena behind him with his shoulders and used Whirlwind as he roared again. This was the benefit of the skills from Diablo World. As long as there were enough HP and MP, Faye could use powerful skills like Whirlwind, as many times as he wanted without having to experience any cooldown. 1 silver dragon, 2 silver dragons, 3 silver dragons, 10 silver dragons. As Faye continued to roar, he used this technique multiple times. As time passed, Faye's understanding of whirlwind got better and better. The sword energies were becoming more solid-like, and the metal silver dragon comprised of all the sword energies looked like a real dragon that was soaring in the sky. This scene shocked everyone. On the sand hill where it was protected by all the soldiers of Jax, Farrington and MODOK looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. MODOK was always calm and collected, but he broke that persona this time. He had never seen a star-level warrior this powerful before. This king of Chambord was able to continuously use this powerful technique, and the damage this technique could do increased over time. If this was anyone else, their bodies would have collapsed a long time ago. I'm no match for him, he thought. No. No wonder Master said that senior brother MODOK couldn't battle with King Alexander. He is this strong. Farrington was almost numbed by all the surprises that Faye put him through. Although they couldn't see the expression on their master's face, Farrington and MODOK clearly heard a "huh" from their master. On top of the defense wall of Dual Flags City, Czech, Torres, Drogba, and other star-level warriors shouted and wanted to help when they saw Faye in an extremely disadvantageous situation. Stop! No one is allowed to move. Anyone who moves will be punished with the crime of treason. Faye sensed what was happening on the defense wall, and he shouted to stop everyone immediately. The huge hand coming at him from 100 meters away was too powerful. If the warriors of Zenit tried to help him, they might be smashed into meat paste before they could help. Elena! Stop and go back to the city. Faye used Whirlwind as he said to the Valkyrie whose armor was stained with blood. What responded to him was a series of bowstring vibrations. The icy magic arrows were still being shot at the huge hand that was about 50 meters away from them now. Faye smiled bitterly and didn't say anything else. He suddenly remembered that he promised this Valkyrie that they were going to face everything together, didn't matter how dangerous it was. Although Elena listened to all of his orders before, she wasn't going to obey this time. Although the situation was difficult, Faye wasn't desperate. His eyes were glowing brighter and brighter. Even a smile appeared on his face. Although that huge hand was giving him a ton of pressure and his bones and muscles were being damaged by it, he clearly sensed a special change occurring in his body slowly. Faye vaguely felt like he grasped onto something very special and unique. As if a caterpillar finally saw a break of light after staying in the cocoon for a long time, he knew that this matter was significant. That huge hand was getting closer and closer, and the pressure he was feeling was getting more and more intense. Almost all of Faye's magic items were broken except for the only level 8 crown-like helmet on his head. His body had many cracks in it, and his bones were making a series of squeaking noises as some of the weaker bones were already broken. Elena stopped attacking. She switched to paladin mode and placed her palms together as if she was praying sincerely. A golden battle ring appeared under her feet, and energy waves dispersed into the area. She didn't care about the injuries on her own body as she used all of her energy to inject golden flames into Faye's body. Paladin skill. Prayer. In this dangerous situation, Elena used this skill to heal Faye. Her mind was completely focused on Faye. She ignored her own injuries and the insane pressure coming at her from the man in red. With her palms together and eyes tightly shut, she had a very devoted expression on her face as she prayed for her loved one. Although Faye's body was severely injured, his eyes were still bright as he chugged down full rejuvenation potion and used Whirlwind inside Dual Flags City, inside a beautiful yard located in the fancy mayor's mansion. Ah, why is my heart hurting so much? This feeling. Could it be that Alexander? Angela, who was washing Blackie with Emma, suddenly opened her eyes wide and looked in Faye's direction. She was feeling very anxious, as if something she treasured was slowly leaving her. Angela, are you okay? Emma sensed the anxiety and asked with concern. I need to get on the defense wall. I need to go to the west gate. Alexander. I need to watch him battle. Angela felt an unprecedented fear as she jumped onto Blacka's back. She grabbed onto the mane on Blacka's neck and said something into the big black dog's ear. Black Tornado, that was chilling in the sunshine, instantly opened its huge eyes and dashed towards the west gate after jumping over the walls around the courtyard. Wind fluttered the edges of Angela's white dress, and her long boots and beautiful shanks were exposed. "Alexander, wait for me!" The girl sat tightly on the back of Blackie as worries appeared in her eyes. She didn't even try to fix her hair, was that fluttering crazily in the wind. At this moment, a worried expression appeared on Emma's face, as if she understood something. Blackie was extremely fast. Like a dash of lightning, it charged through the streets and ran past buildings and statues quickly. Every time it leaped forward, it would travel more than 40 meters. However, the girl on its back didn't feel any rockiness. Blacka's appearance and speed caused a disturbance in the city. A dark-skinned tough man was walking with a young beautiful girl on the main street, and that man suddenly sensed something as he looked up. He saw Blackie charging by him as it left a series of afterimages in the air, and he shouted, It is King Alexander's mount. Who is that beautiful girl in the white dress on its back?" Although he only saw her for half a second, he was still moved by her beauty. It was well known in the city that the king of Chambord had a black demon beast that was intelligent. The pretty girl beside this man suddenly placed her hand on her heart as she frowned. With a confused expression, she grabbed onto that man's arm and asked, "Emile, my heart is hurting. It is strange. Somehow, I seem to have sensed that girl's anxious mood." "The battle has begun." That dark-skinned tough man rubbed the girl's head and said, "Jessica, go to Soros Merchant Group yourself, as His Majesty's guard. I have to be around him to protect him." After he said that, he ran towards the direction of the west gate. "Emile, brother, be careful." Jessica placed her hands around her mouth to amplify her voice. After hearing his sister calling him brother for the first time, Husky smiled brightly as he waved at her and continued to charge at the west gate. "Who is it? How dare you enter the Legion Commander's command center without authorization?" As Blackie carried Angela to the west gate, the soldiers and commanders who were paying close attention to this fascinating fight got aware and asked. Most of them never met Angela before, and a few nobles who wanted to show their loyalty to Faye ordered their guards to stop them. All of a sudden, many warriors were jumping into the air to block Blackie and Angela. "How dare you attack Her Highness?" Drogba saw this and shouted angrily, and his loud shout shocked those warriors in the air. The nobles and their guards were scared. They all knew that Drogba was King Alexander's subordinate. Therefore, they realized that the phrase Her Highness meant this girl on the black demon beast was King Alexander's wife. After they realized this, they all kneeled to apologize. Blackie lied on the defense wall obediently. Angela didn't even bother to look at the nobles as she rushed over to the edge of the defense wall with an anxious expression on her face. She grabbed onto the battlement and immediately saw Faye, who was roaring and using his skills as he was covered in blood. Angela's face instantly paled as she gasped. Although the man on the battlefield was covered in blood and others couldn't see his face, Angela knew that he was Faye. Soon, this girl saw Elena, who was using everything she got to heal Faye up, and her eyes dimmed a little. At this moment, she envied this Valkyrie a lot. The girl really wanted to jump off the defense wall, so she could be around her loved one just like Elena. Even if she would die down there, she was willing to do so. However, her consciousness stopped her. She knew that it won't help Faye at all, and she would become his burden. For the first time, Angela regretted not cultivating warrior energy or magic energy. "Don't worry, Angela. Trust him." A warm hand patted her shoulder, and Angela's tensed-up heart relaxed a little. The only person who could calm the future queen down was Frank Lampard. "Uncle Lampard?" Angela murmured with worries in her eyes. "Trust him, Angela. No one could defeat Alexander. He is the king of Chambord, and he will be the king of the world," Lampard said confidently and sincerely. Angela nodded. She suddenly thought of something. She placed her hands together and closed her eyes as she started to pray as sincere as she possibly could. The noises made by the soldiers, the air-piercing noises of whirlwind, and the flapping noises of the flags in the wind. Gradually, all the noises disappeared, and the only thing that Angela could hear was herself and her soul saying, "Alexander, hold on. You can win. You will win." The wind fluttered her white dress and long black hair, and this scene was beautiful. Many people on the defense wall looked at this girl and thought, "So, Legion Commander King Alexander has such a pretty and prestigious wife? Maybe only a goddess-like girl like her is worthy of the handsome and powerful King Alexander." The invisible huge hand slowly moved towards Faye. Like the movement of the wheel of fate, it was slow but irreversible. With a destructive force, it was getting closer and closer to Faye. It was obvious that the man in red was trying to use this method to slowly destroy Faye's warrior confidence. He was planning to use this slow yet merciless tactic to crush Faye, the spiritual pillar of the residents of Dual Flag City. Faye continued to back off. Now, he was only less than 10 meters away from the defense wall of the city. His legs had already dug 2 deep trails that were more than 400 meters long. Blood continued to drip down from his body. Under this huge pressure, the destructive power from that invisible hand, the healing power of full rejuvenation potion, and the energy from Elena were using his body as the battlefield. Faye's body continued to break and heal. If it wasn't for the body of his level 99 barbarian, any other star-level warrior would have died. Even though this was the case, Faye protected Elena, who was already severely injured, behind him and almost took on all the pressure from that hand. The metal silver dragons made from sword energies from whirlwind continued to attack that huge hand. The only thing was that its effectiveness was decreasing. Anyone could sense that the power in that invisible hand was increasing by the second. Ha 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 ha! The king's loud laughter sounded and resonated on the battlefield. All of a sudden, a vast and sacred energy rushed down from the defense wall. It was so powerful and had an ancient feeling to it that it made people feel like a god had appeared in this world. This bright and gentle energy fell from the defense wall and entered Faye's body as the other people in the area shivered in fear. Faye instantly sensed this energy. It was extremely warm, as if it was the kiss and the caress of a loved one. This energy flowed into his body, and the pain he was experiencing from his body breaking down and healing back up disappeared. Unlike warrior energy and magic energy, although this energy wasn't unlimited, it was of higher quality. Faye even felt like the quality of this energy was even higher than the energy in the huge hand that was coming at him. At this moment, it seemed like a seed that was inside his body was slowly growing and forming a bud. Under the empowerment from this energy, the situation took an unexpected turn. As if a pig saw a holy dragon, the huge hand that was dominating over Faye started to hesitate and didn't dare to move forward anymore. Everyone was surprised on the defense wall of Dual Flag City. That silver light poured down from the defense wall and entered Faye's body, and the origin of the silver light was Queen Angela, who didn't have any warrior energy or magic energy. Although this light was weak, it was majestic and indefensible. As if a god made an appearance, a terrifying pressure appeared and made everyone want to kneel down and worship her. Everyone lowered their heads. They felt like they would be guilty if they looked at this pure girl in white. It was offensive to the gods. Angela? A complex emotion appeared in Lampard's eyes. As he looked at that silver light which was pouring out of Angela's body, he felt like this girl was familiar yet strange to him. Memories from more than 20 years ago flooded through the seals and into his head, and he couldn't do anything about it. This girl in front of him looked like a goddess, and so did that girl from 26 years ago. Everyone around the Queen of Chambord kneeled. How? The power of gods. That man in red standing on the peak of the sand hill shouted in surprise. His cold and composed persona was shattered. Modoc and Farrington, who were standing behind their master, were surprised by that silver light appearing on the defense wall, but they felt like their hearts were hammered after they heard their master's shout. With their mouths open, their expressions looked strange. It was their first time seeing their master behaving this way. Even when the King of Chambord created numerous metal silver dragons using pure sword energies, their master wasn't this surprised. The power of gods? Could it be that a god is hiding in Dual Flag City? Modoc and Farrington thought as they couldn't believe their ears. The man in red lightly shivered as he murmured to himself in a voice that only he could hear. Interesting, being able to summon the power that only the gods could control as a mortal. Who is this girl? Could it be? How is this possible? Too bad that there is a limit to how much power she could summon, and she isn't my match. If she gets stronger, she would be a real trouble for me. Great. I will kill her now to eliminate the risk. After making up his mind, the man in red stepped forward again. However, the environment changed due to his small movement. The huge hand that was more than 1,000 meters away from him suddenly had a red energy flame burning on it, and it instantly dashed forward quickly. Unlike before, it seemed like this man in red was planning to destroy Dual Flag City's defense wall, as well as people on and around it such as Faye and Angela. Faye's face changed color as he felt bitter. A mystic change was happening in his body, and he was elevating and advancing in levels. A mysterious path of cultivation was slowly revealing itself in Faye's head, and that seed was quickly growing and thickening in Faye's body. The two clouds of golden essence that Faye got after he defeated ancient Talik and Korlik were hidden in his body before, but they were now being stimulated and were being sucked in by Faye's bones and muscles. As all these changes were taking place, Faye realized that he couldn't move his body. He couldn't even summon the teleport portal and enter Diablo World to dodge the attack. That huge hand was coming at him mercilessly. Even that mysterious silver light coming out of Angela's body couldn't even defend against the strike. That silver light started to disperse, and the blood dripping down from Angela's lips stained the chest area of her white dress. At this moment, this situation was extremely dangerous. As everyone was going to watch Faye die under this strike, something shocking happened. A surge of earth elemental magic energy appeared as if there was a storm in the desert, and all the earth elements in the area flew into the sky. The yellow energy flames instantly covered the bright sun in the sky, and clouds gathered and formed a vast cloud vortex. Before anyone could react, a huge yellow pillar that looked like a magic wand extended out of the vortex. This colossal magic wand looked like a dry tree branch that was magnified many times, and some people felt like they could still see the cracks and smaller branches on this magic wand. Multiple yellow magic runes were circling this magic wand, and it looked like this magic wand was moving slowly. However, it was able to block that huge hand before it could do any real damage. At that moment, a lot of people closed their eyes. As the two powerful strikes collided, they thought that there would be destructive energy waves and residual energies flying around. However, only the wind lightly breezed through them, and that terrifying and storm-like energy waves didn't appear. Tens of thousands of soldiers and commanders on both sides slowly opened their eyes. 40 meters away from Dual Flag City, the huge hand that had a vague red glare to it and almost destroyed Dual Flag City collided into a colossal magic wand. There weren't any energy waves expanding outward. Instead, like two phantoms, they slowly disappeared after crashing into each other. Felt like they never existed before. In the next moment, all the natural phenomena disappeared, and the sun reappeared in the sky. If there weren't surging fire elements and earth elements in the air, people would feel like they were dreaming. Snow Mountain Hermit, why get murderous on a junior? A deep and thick voice sounded from the inside the Dual Flag City, and this majestic voice was clearly heard throughout the battlefield. He was a master. This man was hidden in Dual Flag City, and no one discovered him beforehand. At this critical moment, he showed himself and saved Faye as well as Dual Flag City. Humph! I only want to teach him a lesson. The disciple of Big Snow Mountain couldn't be shamed like that. That man in red replied, and everyone in the area heard him loud and clear as well as if it was the ringing of a big bell. Let the juniors take care of the matters themselves. That majesty and mighty voice sounded again inside Dual Flag City. There was a moment of silence. No one knew what the man in red was thinking about. For a moment, the only sound that could be heard was the flapping noises of the flags. The silence felt deadly and terrifying. Beside Dual Flag City, Faye's eyes were getting brighter and brighter. He could feel that the unique and mystic changes occurring in his body were approaching the end. All the injuries on his body were healed, and his body was even stronger now, as if he was reborn. In fact, his body looked like it was made from steel, as it was hard and sturdy. After half a minute, that man in red turned around and walked towards the tents not too far away from him. No one could see his face, but they could all guess that his mood wasn't as calm as he looked. It was obvious that this man in red was a little afraid of this mysterious master. Perhaps he didn't think it was the best time to battle with this mysterious master. It felt like he was waiting for something. After seeing that their master went into the clean tent that Farrington prepared for him, Modoc and Farrington looked at each other with concern in their eyes. It was clear that the mysterious master who just showed himself shocked these two young men of Jax. There is a master mage on the side of Zenit. He is a huge obstacle in the path of Jax, Farrington thought. He was planning to conquer Dual Flag City today, but it looked like it was a joke now. Pass my order. Pull back the campsites for 1.5 kilometers. Farrington sighed and ended the siege for today. All the commanders and soldiers didn't even think of doubting this decision. After all, what happened today was beyond their levels. Even though they were fierce and fearless, they knew that the city in front of them couldn't be conquered by them alone. The long and deep bugle sounded, and the formations of soldiers of Jax retreated and backed off like waves on the beach. Only some soldiers were left on the battlefield to identify the corpses of soldiers of Jax and move their bodies onto a flat cart. They backed. The invaders of Jax backed off. Someone shouted on the defense wall of Dual Flag City, and everyone followed and cheered. Every soldier of Zenit felt like they survived a disaster. The sequences of events that took place were beyond their comprehension. They had never seen anything like this before. The unyielding mentality of Legion Commander King Alexander, the huge hand that was coming at the city with the indefensible power, and the huge magic wand that appeared in the sky. All of these were shocking and surprising in the eyes of the regular soldiers. Whoosh! Whoosh! As warrior energy flames appeared, several warriors jumped off the defense wall that was more than 200 meters tall and rushed over to Faye, who was covered with blood. Legion Commander, are you okay? Your Majesty, we are here. People like Czech, Drogba, and Rybri all rushed over and wanted to support Faye. At this moment, a light cracking noise sounded. Faye, who looked like he was in a blood cocoon, suddenly moved his arms, and the thick layers of dried blood cracked and revealed the powerful body underneath it. That muscular body looked perfect. After a dash of flame flashed by, a magic armor appeared on Faye. He looked like he was reborn, as his skin was smooth and he looked energetic. Don't worry about me. Pass my order. Tell the soldiers to come out and collect the corpses of our men. Faye's current status calmed a lot of people down. When Faye was severely injured, they felt like their world was collapsing. Now, since Faye looked fine, their heads all got cleared. As the commanders started to pass down Faye's order, soldiers jumped off the defense wall with the assistance of ropes, and they started to collect the corpses of their peers. This was the most peaceful time during the war. Hundreds of soldiers from both sides mixed in with each other as they looked for the corpses of their peers. When they sometimes looked up at their enemies, there weren't any murderous intents in their eyes. It was an old tradition on Azeroth continent where opposing parties wouldn't get into fights at this period of time after the battle. Faye quickly walked towards Elena. As soon as he touched Elena's shoulder, the girl who didn't back off when facing that great pressure and strike suddenly collapsed. Faye was shocked as he quickly held onto Elena, and he only sensed a vague life energy. Elena, what is going on? Hold still. Fear overtook Faye's heart. He quickly took out a bottle of full rejuvenation potion and lightly poured it into Elena's mouth. At the same time, he switched to paladin mode. The golden energy flame around him burned and rushed into Elena's body continuously. As Faye used the skill prayer, the golden battle ring under his feet glowed brightly. At this moment, gasps sounded on the defense wall. Your Highness, what is going on? Angela, wake up. Your Majesty. Queen Angela, Her Highness fainted. Faye was shocked again. He switched back to barbarian mode and used skill leap to jump onto the defense wall with Elena in his arms. When he saw Angela, His eyes opened widely. More than half of Angela's white dress was stained by the blood that was dripping down from her lips, and her face paled. At the moment, she was being held up by Lampard, and her breath was weak. What is going on? Why is Angela here? How did she get injured? Faye shouted. When he was undergoing that mystic change, he didn't know what was happening on the defense wall, and he didn't know that the mysterious power was coming from Angela. Quick! Alexander, save Angela first. We can talk about the other stuff later, Lampard said with an anxious expression on his face. He was the person who was usually the calmest. Dual Flag City, the mayor's mansion. In front of the main building that was behind a lot of other structures, Faye was walking back and forth repeatedly as he looked agitated. He sometimes rubbed his hands together and sometimes clenched his fists. Murderous spirits flashed in his eyes, and he was very anxious. In just half an hour, a lot of beard had grown on Faye's face, and he looked like he aged more than 100 years. At the moment, all the high-level officials in Dual Flag City were standing in the courtyard that Faye was in. With worries on their faces, they looked at the Legion commander who was in a very negative state and sighed. They didn't know what to do or what to say. You guys should return to your pre-assigned positions. The invaders of Jax might attack again. Faye waved his hand anxiously and told everyone to leave the area. Your Majesty, Ms. Elena and Angela, Her Highness will recover for sure, everyone said in unison as they single-kneeled. After they prayed quickly, they left in silence. Victoria was currently wearing the same style of dress that Faye designed for Angela. It was simple, and the bottom of the dress covered up to her knees. Even though it wasn't too revealing, it still emphasized this fallen princess' figure. A pair of modified female battle boots wrapped around her lower legs, and her slender waist looked sexy. She popped her head out of the door of the building. She deliberately paused for a second when she saw the agitated Faye and said, Your Majesty, you can come in now. Ah? How is it? How are they? What did Akira say? As if he saw his savior, he rushed over and asked loudly as he grabbed onto Victoria's hands. Ah! It hurts! Victoria yelled as she almost teared up. The king was too powerful, and he grabbed onto Victoria's hands subconsciously without controlling his strength. Faye froze for a second. Afterward, he frowned, let go of Victoria's hands, and rushed into the main building without saying a word. Victoria got really mad. You touched me inappropriately? And what was that expression? Why did you frown? Did I do something to you? She thought as she turned around and looked at Faye's back. Even though she was a little upset and her hands that were grabbed by Faye were burning, she was a little touched. If one day a man treats me like how this long-faced king treats Angela and Elena, I probably would be moved and would fall in love, she thought. Of course, that man has to be as powerful and brave as this long-faced king. No, he has to be better than this long-faced king. Her requirement seemed too high to obtain. Inside the main building, I have done the inspection on both of them, and they fainted due to the same reason. They depleted too much of their life energy and soul energy. Priestess Akira sighed and continued, however, they aren't in life-threatening danger currently. Currently? Faye caught onto the keyword. Yes, their bodily functions are still operating, but they couldn't eat and do other stuff while they are unconscious. If they don't wake up soon, they might be in life-threatening danger. The damage their brains and internal organs might suffer. As Akira said that, a serious expression that Faye never saw before appeared on her face. I have to admit that you are very lucky, Mr. Faye. Both of these beautiful girls are willing to burn their life energies for you. You must find a cure in 30 days, or you might regret coming to Dual Flag City for the rest of your life, she continued. Faye tightly clenched his fist, and he didn't even notice that his fingernails pierced his skin. He looked up and asked sincerely, How can I save them? You must know the way, right? There are 2 methods. First of all, you can find the pure soul stone and wake them up using the soul energy in it. Akira nodded and continued. This is an easier method. If an angel in Diablo world is willing to help you, these 2 girls would be saved as well. Faye automatically ignored the second part of Akira's sentence. The angels in Diablo world were all dull NPCs, and he couldn't rely on talking to them and asking them for help. He nodded and asked, "Soulstone? What is that? Where can I find it?" Akira looked at Faye for a while in silence before she slowly said, "If I didn't remember it wrong, the other name for Soulstone is Worldstone." "Worldstone?" Faye shouted in surprise. A happy expression instantly appeared on his face. If he only had to get the Worldstone, then it was very possible. He only had to enter Diablo World and kill Final Boss Ball in Worldstone Chamber in the normal mode, and he would be able to get the Worldstone. For Faye, defeating and killing Ball wasn't hard. It was only a matter of time. "Mr. Faye, I know what you are thinking. However, the Worldstone in Diablo World is already stained by the power of hell. Even if you can get it, using it directly might harm Angela and Elena in some unknown way. They might even fall into demons," Akira suddenly said. There is a way to purify the stained Worldstone, right?" Faye asked. His silver of hope sunk quickly right after it showed up. "Perhaps there is a way. Kane and I discovered and decoded a lot of interesting stuff from the mysterious stone room that you discovered in the underground hall in St. Petersburg. If some of our discoveries indeed work, we might be able to purify it." A crazy light flashed in Priestess Akira's eyes when she said that. "What did you discover?" Faye was excited again. He felt like he was on an emotional roller coaster. "We can talk about that later on. It is hard to explain in a short time. You need to get the stained Worldstone first. Mr. Faye, remember that time is running out." Akira stood up and pointed at an empty space. As a blue portal appeared, she said to Faye, "I need to go back and organize all of the discoveries with Kane. If you get your hands on the stained Worldstone, come and find us in that mysterious stone room." After she said that, she walked into the portal and disappeared as the buzzing noises sounded. "Worldstone, huh?" Faye murmured as a firm expression appeared on his face. He then slowly walked to the bed and sat on the edge. As he lightly caressed the beautiful faces of the two girls who looked like they were in deep sleep, he swore in his mind, "My lovers, you two almost sacrificed your own young and beautiful lives for me. Therefore, doesn't matter what it takes. I will get the purified Worldstone to save you. All, prepare to die. Alexander, Angela will be okay, right?" Emma looked up at Faye with tears in her eyes as she asked in a vulnerable voice. "And Elena, she will be okay as well, right?" Faye patted her head and wiped the tears off of her face as he forced himself to show a smile. He said slowly and firmly, "Trust me, Emma. There is nothing that I, Alexander, couldn't do. Even if the gods want to take them away, I will take them back by force. Nothing can stop us from living happily ever after." As he looked at this young yet languished face, Faye suddenly thought back to when he first arrived in this world. At that time, this lowly was a little mean to him and had high guard around him. She was naive but a little worried as she and Angela relied on each other to survive in the cold palace of Chambord and took care of idiot Alexander, despite how hard it was and the mockeries others showed them. To this girl, Angela was her big sister, and she couldn't live without her. For a long time, this little girl with freckles on her face had been by Angela's side and took care of Faye quietly, and Faye just realized that she had grown a lot. Even though this girl was still cute, and her eyes were as clear as ever, she was calmer and more valiant. "I trust you, Alexander." Emma showed a brave smile as she wiped away her tears. She said loudly, "I believe that you will save Angela. You promised me on the defense wall of Chambord that you will take care of her forever, and you would never let her be harmed." Faye nodded. He turned around and said to the four maids, "Spring, summer, autumn, and winter softly. Before I return, please take good care of Angela and Elena with Emma for me. Make sure that you follow Priestess Akira's feeding and caring instructions." "As you wish, Your Majesty. Angela, Her Highness, and Ms. Elena treated us like sisters, and we will take good care of them for sure." After hearing Faye's words, they all nodded and replied with tears in their eyes. The four maids were all saved by Faye, and they built a strong bond with the two girls. "Okay, thank you." Faye nodded and walked out of the building. After he walked out, he ordered Husky to call over warriors of Chambord such as Lampard and Torres. I'm going to be busy for the next while. Uncle Lampard, please guard this building with care with our men when I'm gone. Without my permission, no one is allowed to come within 10 meters of the building. Anyone who disobeys this order shall be executed on the spot. Doesn't matter what his or her identity is. As you wish, Your Majesty. Lampard nodded and replied. After Faye gave it more thoughts, he said, Peter, pull 30 Saint Seiya's and 500 elite soldiers. Tightly guard all the entrances in the mayor's mansion and don't let anyone come in. Check nodded and followed Faye's order. Your Majesty, that mysterious mage. Lampard hesitated a little and reminded Faye. If it wasn't for that mysterious mage's help, the king might have died on the battlefield, and Dual Flag City would have collapsed. The power of that man in red was too much, and that mysterious mage also demonstrated the power that could turn a war around. The huge magic wand that extended out from the cloud was too mighty, and ignoring a mysterious mage like that in the city might be troublesome. Faye thought about it and shook his head as he said, There is no need. Since he helped us today, he must be a friend and not an enemy. Hermits like him must not like being bothered by other, so let's treat it as if nothing had happened. Faye's sharp level 99 barbarian sixth sense told him that the mysterious mage didn't pose any threats. Faye walked into a side building in the mayor's mansion and opened up a portal. He was going to enter Diablo World and kill the final boss ball as soon as possible to get the World Stone. Diablo World. World Stone Keep on the summit of Mount Arit. When Faye entered the first level of World Stone Keep, all the high-level demons he and Elena killed before got refreshed and were there again. The evil power stained the majestic palace, and demons were everywhere. Faye was wearing the best armor he could buy from the NPC in Harrogath. Although it was only a level 5 item, it offered a good defense. With dual swords, Bulkathos children, in his hands, none of the demons in the palace could defend against Faye's attacks. Since he was in a time crunch to save the girls, the king didn't try to reserve his mana. As he chugged down mana potions, he used Whirlwind continuously. For a moment, sword energies were flying everywhere. Under the power of the level 99 barbarian, Whirlwind was being performed at an extremely amazing level. The sword energies that were invisible now turned to the color silver, and they chopped everything in front of Faye. When the powerful demons charged at Faye, they were all killed like crops under the sickle of a farmer. In front of the raging king, these demons had no chance of winning. In less than half an hour, Faye arrived at the third level of World Stone Keep, Throne of Destruction. This was where the final boss ball was located. On a huge altar that was made from numerous cracked bones and dried blood, final boss ball, who looked like a combination of a spider and an octopus, was sitting there. Its huge body that was more than 20 meters tall opened its terrifying big mouth and laughed. Behind him, there was a void that had a ton of red bloody energy leaking out of it. It looked like it was a waterfall of death. However, Faye knew that this ball was only a mirror image of itself. It wasn't the real ball. Just like how Faye remembered from the game in his previous life, a cloud of red fire would shoot out Baal's mouth every time it laughed. It was a way of summoning demons. When the fires landed on the ground, they would turn into hundreds of demons. There were all kinds of demons. Powerful demons from all the maps such as Rogue Encampment and Harrogath appeared, and they charged at Faye with sharp weapons and thick armors. However, the king was even more frenzied than them. Whirlwind. Chop! 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 As the king roared, his voice covered the shouts coming from the demons. The silver blade storm covered the entire palace. Various colored blood that had strong corrosion effects formed a pond, and the demons died in their own blood. In the end, Baal's summoning speed wasn't as fast as Faye's killing speed. Faye clearly sensed that a ton of experience points flowed into his body as he felt a warm energy. Normally, this much experience points would have made the barbarian character level up. But this time, didn't matter how much experience points he got, his level didn't change. Finally, Baal that was laughing on the altar disappeared after an hour, and it stopped summoning demons. After Faye killed all the demons around him, he stepped onto Baal's throne that looked like an altar, and he then entered the bloody waterfall-like portal behind the throne without hesitation. After a few seconds, Faye opened his eyes and saw a new space. Worldstone Chamber was very different from the Worldstone Keep prior. It was a lot smaller and darker. The walls around Worldstone Chamber looked ancient, and there was a ton of dust on them, making them look ragged. Many ceiling pieces had already fallen onto the floor that was made from ancient stone plates, and most of the floor also cracked up. This place looked like a tomb that was going to collapse at any moment. Perhaps it was due to the corrosion power from the hell. The palace was very dark and gloomy. Faye's visibility was greatly reduced due to the thick bloody fog in the air and the deadly, poisonous, and moist air flowing around him. This was the place of the final battle. This should be the ending location in Diablo world. The ball that appeared in Throne of Destruction was only a mirror image, and the real ball was hiding here. Ahahaha! Stupid human. Your trip stops here. Give me your delicious bones, flesh, and soul. I smell something good. Let me drink your blood and make you into one of my soldiers. You could live for eternity. Ha ha ha. The real ball appeared as he laughed crazily. Eternity, your mom. Give me your life and Worldstone. Daddy needs to save his women. Ah. Whirlwind. Faye leaped into the air as he chugged down a bottle of mana potion. Boom. A silver tornado made from sword energy struck Ball, and it took out 5% of Bale's health. Faye felt a lot more confident after seeing this. The ferocious battle began. However, the reality was crueler than Faye imagined. Ball had the intelligence that the ordinary bosses in the Diablo world didn't have, and he was able to cast both fire elemental and fire elemental magic spells. His spells were all AoE, and Faye had a hard time dodging. Once he got hit, his movement speed would slow down and he would be hit even more. When Faye took away a lot of Bale's health, this boss used teleport and slowly healed back up while dodging Faye's attacks. After half an hour, Faye finally won this fight against the most powerful demon in Diablo world in normal mode. Boom! Bale's huge body slammed onto the ground, and it screamed and whined unwillingly as blood rushed out of its mouth. When Ball died, a dash of pink lightning rushed out of its corpse and lit up the entire Worldstone Chamber. Then, the ground started to shake as the palace started to collapse. Huge pieces of roof tiles fell down, and it felt like it was doomsday. There were all kinds of lights flashing around Bale's corpse. Blue, orange, green. There were also almost at least 10,000 gold coins around him. Faye walked straight into the T-shaped corridor in front of him without even looking at the rewards from Ball. This T-shaped corridor inside Worldstone Chamber was the most mysterious structure in Diablo world. It was built in the void. Both sides of the corridor and the bottom of the corridor was the void abyss. It felt like this structure was built somewhere in space with no end in sight. There were a lot of ancient stone statues on the sides of the corridor, and they were connected by rusty iron chains that were stained with blood. Faye got to the end of the T-shaped corridor. On a rough stone table, the king found the Worldstone. According to Priestess Akira's description, the pure Worldstone should be in a dark blue color just like the sky, and it should be shiny like a crystal. Also, it should be an oval sphere that was about 10 centimeters long and 4 centimeters in diameter. However, the Worldstone in front of Faye's eyes was obviously stained. The shape didn't change, but its color was now red. It was giving off an evil and chilling sensation. As Faye took one look at this Worldstone, all kinds of negative and destructive thoughts appeared in his head. He felt like he was going to fall and become a demon. Faye sighed in disappointment. However, he still packed this Worldstone into his bag. He just hoped that Akira could really purify this Worldstone later. At this moment, a mysterious ripple appeared in front of him. Next, a blue portal appeared beside Faye. Archangel Tyrell walked out of the portal. Great work! Ball is finally killed. Honorable hero Faye, you proved your courage and power using your actions, and you killed the source of evil in the world. However, the Worldstone is stained. It must be destroyed. Hero, for the forever peace and purity of the world, you have to destroy it, Tyrell said. This archangel was wearing a holy light armor, and tentacle-like energy flames behind him contained an indefensible and majestic power. When he stared at Faye closely, Faye felt like he was being judged by the gods. He felt like this archangel was waiting for his response, and this archangel was going to kill him if he refused. However, the king curled his lips and didn't do anything. To be honest, he didn't like the angels after he got to know the history behind everything. This war between the heaven and the hell was like a game played by the gods and the devils to kill time. All the pain the humans suffered was like the seasoning to a meal. Both the heaven and the hell didn't represent justice. Gods and devils were both powerful but cruel and selfish creatures. Faye turned around and gave Tyrell a back to look at. Huh? A green item. Faye walked to the corpse of the final boss ball and saw an item that was flashing a green light. After he used an identify scroll on it, this green armor finally revealed itself. It was a heavy armor that looked perfect in all aspects. This is Immortal King's soul cage, sacred armor? Faye's voice was even shaking.